power while winning arguments. This is written as a regular, tax paying, inflation got these prices sky high citizen in Butte County. I'm writing this as a citizen, not as a title, not as an office, not as anybody's representative, a citizen, a Black millennial father raising a son and children in Butte County, a descendant of people who were counted as property in this country before they were ever counted as people, a man who lives here in the North State, the stretch of California the rest of California likes to forget, and who loves his neighbors enough to tell them the truth. So here's the truth: we are losing, not because we're outnumbered, but because we have confused public purity with public power. While we're busy proving who is the most correct, somebody else is busy governing our future. We cannot stay in the room with each other long enough to win. We did it to ourselves first with Joe Biden. And let me be fair, there were real questions. Presentation matters in politics, and pretending otherwise insults the voter we say we want. But we let one cruel media frame swallow an entire governing record. The work was getting done. The numbers were moving. The hardest problems on the planet were handled by someone who spent 50 years learning how to handle them. We let the headline beat the record. We confuse optics with outcomes. Then acted surprised when the other side understood power better than we did. Then we did it again with Kamala Harris. Not because she was perfect. Nobody is. Not because every voter owed her uncritical applause. They did not. She was, though, a sitting vice president, effective and imperfect, with enough momentum that she could have been the one taking the call, the 3 a.m. call. The one history hands to whoever is willing to carry the weight. But too many of us could not practice political maturity long enough to back 80% of what we wanted while organizing around the other 20. We wanted a flawless vessel for a fractured moment. That is not politics, y'all. That is fantasy dressed up as principle. So we let it fall. We wanted a flawless vessel for a fractured moment. My best friend, Matt, has a phrase for when something refuses to add up. Make it make sense. So make it make sense for me. What has all of that purity bought us? Now, look across the aisle. I disagree with nearly everything they are building. I find the fealty disturbing, the bending of the knee to one man as though obedience were a virtue. But watch what they do, not just what they are. They focus. No matter how deplorable the play, they run it. They flood the zone. They hold the line in public and fight in private. And they keep their eyes fixed on the agenda while we keep ours fixed on each other. Frederick Douglass warned us that power concedes nothing without a demand. We have the demand. What we lack is discipline to make it together. Imagine flooding the zone for the common good. Imagine that kind of coordination aimed at feeding people, housing people, protecting the ballot, healing the sick. The strategy is not evil. The strategy is just a tool. And we have refused to pick it up because we would rather be right out loud than effective together. Here is something we have to be grown enough to hold in both hands. Modern politics, let's just say it as it is. Modern politics wears two faces. There is persona, the part we see, the posturing, the performance, and there is policy, the actual language that becomes the actual law that lands on actual people in places like Southside Orville. The two are not always the same. Sometimes they're not even close. A leader can carry a persona you find exhausting and still write policy that protects your grandmother's medication, your daughter's classroom, your neighbor's right to vote. We do not lose because our ideas are weak, y'all. We lose because we quit engaging one another before we ever reach the language that wins. We break up in the group chat before anybody drafts the bill. So let me offer a different test, not a checklist of every position a person holds. 3 questions. Is this person here for the common good? Are they selfless enough to serve something larger than their own brand? And are they open to feedback that might change their mind? If the answer is yes, they belong in the coalition. Those are not side issues. Those are soul issues. Then we name the things we will not bend on. Voting rights, bodily autonomy, equal protection under the law, protection from state violence, the basic dignity of workers, children, elders, immigrants, disabled people, poor people, and communities that have been targeted, y'all, for generations. Those are not side issues. Those are soul issues. We name that short and honest list, and then we agree that everything else gets settled in the room. Not in the chats, not in the quote tweets, not in the green room confessionals and the unnamed sources, in the room. We're grown people who love the same people, can disagree, push, sharpen, and still walk out unified. Ella Baker spent her life teaching us that strong movements do not need strong leaders nearly as much as they need disciplined people who keep showing up. She built the room. She never needed to be the loudest in it. We hold each other accountable face to face because that is the only place accountability has ever worked, y'all. The stakes are no longer theoretical, and the price of our pettiness has climbed too high to keep paying. A government is being hollowed out on purpose. Project 2025 is not a warning we dodged, it was a blueprint. And more than half of it has already been put into motion, room by room, from gutted agencies to a federal workforce stripped for parts. The Voting Rights Act, the things our elders, my elders, bled for, and the thing that John Lewis carried across a bridge in his own body, was gutted this spring in a single decision by a court that needs reform. We are barely permitted to name out loud. This very machinery that lets a man like me cast a ballot is being quietly dismantled while we argue over whose candidate was insufficiently pure. I'm not asking anyone to abandon their convictions. Convictions were never the problem. I, I'm asking us to stop letting the perfect murder the possible. I'm asking us to carry our fights inside, into the room, and bring our unity back out into the public. I'm asking us to look honestly at what our division has already cost. A court reshaped for a generation, voting rights weakened in real time, trust fractured, a decade of hard ground lost, communities left exposed, and then I am asking us to decide the next thing we lose will not be lost by our own hands. We can disagree all the way to victory. We can argue, sharpen, challenge, correct, and still come out the room with enough discipline to protect the people we claim to love. But we cannot keep losing because we need it to be right in public more than we need it to be useful together. Let us get back in the room. Let us deal honestly. Let us come out unified. And then let us go win. Because we can. We can do this. Those are my thoughts. Hope they're helpful. If you have questions, thoughts, or any comments you want to make, please drop them below.